Alright, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the little goat. Now he's pretty small and he's cut out of 3/4 inch basswood. And if we get the figure, if you look at your figure here, then the goat will be back behind her like this, in other words. But we're going to have to be real careful with this goat because it is small. Now, you want your grain running this way, okay? You want to run it up and down on the legs like this. You want your grain like that, okay? Running that way. And I took my Dremel and I used the little cutting device and I cut in between the legs just to open up, and in between the horns just to open up the figure a little bit. Let's go ahead first of all and separate our body from our head for just a minute. This is small, so you want to be real careful. If you're a beginner, I wouldn't suggest you do this project. This is more for an advanced person because it is small. So I'm going to go ahead and start working on these legs just a little bit. Now, as you carve these legs, you want your knife to be sharp, and you want to be very careful and don't take a whole lot off at one time, okay? You're close, so you don't want to, you don't want to get crazy because this is a very small piece. And I just sort of cut in between the legs and dig that out of there. That's why your knife needs to be sharp when you do anything like this. Just like that. So you want your knife to be sharp because you have to get in between the legs here. Now we're just let me go ahead and draw a little tail back here. Just go ahead and draw a little tail back here. Let's go ahead and cut that down as well. Okay. Let's see, we sort of take a series of cuts as we do this to get this down. Okay, and you take just a little bit of wood off. You do not take large bites of wood off when you're carving something like this. You want to do it right, but you want to be very careful because if you're a, wear a thumb guard or wear a, but see how very, very small bits of wood I am taking off here. You don't want to take a lot off at one time. As I told you, this is only 3/4 inch wood, so it's very small. That's all you need to carve the goat. So, and the head goes this way. Kind of like that. And we want to be very careful and don't get in a hurry, because you're asking for trouble if you do. Very, very sharp pieces of wood. I'm going to come up here and come in between here. Well, I say this is so thin in here, you want to be careful not to try to take too much off at one time. The same thing here on the front legs. I want to be careful not to get too rambunctious. And most of you know what rambunctious means. It just simply means in a hurry. See? Now, see how much I turn the knife as I go into things like that? I turn the knife because in this figure you're going to find out that the wood turns a lot of different ways, so you want to be careful. And when it turns the other way, then you do your knife the other way. Okay? Now, what this is right here, this is the little beard. So we're going to just cut that away from there for just a minute. Want to be careful. There's a little beard there. Take a little bit off at a time. Now, what we want to do, very carefully come in between these horns, and we want to take them down. That's why it's good to have a sharp knife, folks. Very important to have a sharp knife, so that you can do this without overdoing it. Okay. Now let's go between these legs a little bit. In between these legs. It's kind of hard to to see, but on a small figure it is hard to see. Okay, we're just going to kind of do this, do that, bring those legs down. Okay, as you can see, I'm going to cut this tail just a little bit back here. And we're going to cut a little bit in here. In other words, this wood, you have to really watch it because it's going to change on you. In other words, the cutting phase is, even though it's up and down, as you cut like in here like this, you're going to be very careful because it changes its cutting routine, grain. That's what I'm saying. Okay. And we're going to kind of cut in here just a little bit. Come in here like this. And if it takes you to have to sharpen your knife a few times as you do this, then do it. You know, don't risk having a dull knife. Okay, that's why I don't recommend beginners to do projects like this. Is because you're getting into an area that requires your knife to be very sharp. And if you haven't learned how to sharpen your knife, or haven't learned how to sharpen it correctly, then I do not recommend projects like this because it's a disaster. It can lead to cutting yourself pretty bad. As you know, I do a lot of miniature work, so this is not unusual for me. It's not unusual for me at all. So I say I will tell you if it's a beginner's project or whatever, because this is not. I mean, unless you did a larger piece of it. But this is definitely not for beginners who have not mastered sharpening your knife, because you need a very sharp knife when you go into these areas. Make sure that they cut good. Sometimes when I'm carving, I will stop and I will go sharpen my knife during this case. And I will go sharpen it and make sure that you know, I'm not okay. Now on your horns, you're going to sort of be sort of separated a little bit from your, as I'm cutting them down just a little bit. There we go. I'll separate them. And look how much I take off, just barely. And I keep going back and forth, not trying to take off a lot at one time. Okay, now the face is sort of like this. It's sort of does this. This is sort of the nose that comes down like that. This area in here. See how it's coming? See, I'll put my fingers sometimes behind the legs like this. And you want to be careful when you come back and cut like that, because you want to get your fingers out of the way. But I'll hold my fingers like that, where I can kind of put a little pressure and it won't break the piece. Continue to bring that face down. Okay, and I'll bring the little beard down just a little bit. And then what you can do is bring it down to a certain point and then take your modal tool and finish it off also, if you want to. it's getting there. Now, this all has to come down. And this has to come down. And we're going to do a little V cut very lightly in here. You want to be real careful in that. I need to take just a little bit more off this leg right here. Two. Okay. Down a little bit more in here. A little bit more in here. The face just sort of comes down like that. Now you can do this also with a moto tool. I'm just showing you a little bit about doing the knife, but like I said, this is a small piece, so you have to really be very careful how you cut it, how much you cut off, and we need to bring this up just a little bit in here and just. There we go. Bring that leg up just a little bit. There we go, like that. Where it comes up almost to the tail. And even the front here, we want to come just a little bit more